Oh hi, Dave Rome here. If you're hearing this, then you're on the free feed of the Escape Collective podcast network. We're happy you're here, and we'll continue to give plenty of expert opinion and analysis away for free. But really, our best stuff is saved for members of Escape Collective. After all, with no advertising or affiliate links, it's our members who make this all possible. From in-depth interviews with leading experts, to class-leading reviews, through to unique things like my threaded series for anyone spinning spanners of any level. That's the sort of content you'll get by becoming a member. And as an added bonus, you won't have to listen to ads like this again. Head to escapecollective.com/join to sign up.
Welcome back to the Spin Cycle Podcast, everybody. I'm Kaylee Fretz, joined today, Johnny Long.
Hello.
Dan Cash.
Hello.
Kit Nicholson.
Howdy.
Today on the show, the Tour de France might change its Paris finish. Rigoberto Uran, the football player, RCS wants Alaphilippe, or maybe Hershey, that'd be fine too. And we're going to circle the plug hole. Let's get to it. Welcome, everybody. Hey, it's Friday. It's Friday.
Friday
How
vibes.
exciting. Friday
Look
vibes.
at us.
Look at us. 2 podcasts a week. We're excited.
Yeah. Got tons of news because we're actually recording at a normal, regular time that would make sense finally.
Yeah, as opposed to just like a random Tuesday.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got shows on Monday, we've got shows on Friday. This is a new thing for 2025. We want to give you twice the spin cycle. We've got a lot to talk about. I think this show, the Friday show, we're going to experiment a little bit, chuck some interviews in there, but we're also going to be previewing whatever racing is happening over the weekend. So kicking off this weekend is the Women's Tour Down Under. I just said we're going to preview it in this show. That was a lie. It previewed in Wheel Talk this week. But TDU is kicking off down in Adelaide right around the time that you're listening to this probably is about when it will be starting. So we'll be wrapping that up early next week and then looking ahead to the men's race, which happens next week because bike racing is back, which is very, very exciting. Our first topic of the day, though, is actually focused on the end of July. ASO, Tour de France organizer ASO, is considering adding the Montmartre laps, the butte, the butt, the sort of, what was it? The 1,600 meter climb, or like length climb on cobbles that was used in the Olympics this year, and they're considering adding it to the final stage of the Tour de France. So that would switch things up quite dramatically. What do we think about this?
I don't know what I think about it, to be honest. I mean, I remember one of the things building up to the Olympics was the discussion over the narrowness of the route over the hill. So I look forward to some grumbles from certain teams about that, but also the fact that there would be so much speculation and opportunity to do something interesting on the final stage. Let's just say Remco Evenepoel is a minute and a half down, and he gets a bee in his bonnet, and I don't know, catches Vingegaard unawares, or Vingegaard's still on the champagne. He just pings up the road. So there's that potential eventuality, but then there's also the idea that there'll be the gentleman's agreement, as there always is in Paris, and so there'll be this hill that's very pretty and very and with good memories on it, but in actual fact it'll just be the sprinters teams completely blocking the front and going really, 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 really slowly over this picturesque lump in the middle of Paris, and then riding to the finish as usual. So I don't know. I like the idea, but for a stage 20?
Well, this is you've alluded to the point there, Kit. It entirely depends on whether they're actually going to race it.
Exactly.
Like, if they don't bother to race it, then there seems to be little point. Like,
I would
it would look
imagine.
cool, but it looks cool anyway on the Champs-Élysées. Like, that's not what we're concerned about for stage 21 ever. But say there is like a super close Tour de France, and then you actually have a final stage that's raced through Paris. That would be cool. And Kaylee, I think, actually put in our Slack the other day, and feel free to edit this out if he doesn't want this in public. He's like, well, at the moment, most of the sprinters are like kind of boring. So why do they get all of this, all the accolades of this final stage of the Tour de France? And I actually agree.
I
I feel like the sprinters are being undeservedly shaded there. But I think you do have a point about the popularity, because and the other side of that coin is the people who would potentially win this stage if they do race it are the riders that are the most popular in the sport. It's first of all, Pogacar, who is missing from Kit's hypothetical. Generously left off.
What do you know, Kit?
To allow the others to shine for a day. But yeah, Evenepoel and Van Van Aert and Tom Pidcock, not this year, but some year maybe. Yeah. And so anyway, that I think raises the potential for excitement, fan engagement, all that good stuff. We saw the crowds along the road up to the Sacré-Cœur last year. Was amazing, and I think there's a potential for that. So I think it's good for that.
So I have personally experienced both of these things. Right, I was in Paris this summer for the Olympics, and I was in the upstairs window of a cafe with Joshua Robinson of the Wall Street Journal, Abby Mickey of Escape Collective, also Jason Gay of the Wall Street Journal, also hanging out with us up there, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I mean, I've covered how many Tours de France now? 14, whatever it is. The only time I've seen that level of sort of side of the road chaos and party vibes, and is maybe Dutch Corner on Alpe d'Huez is the only kind of similar level of on the ground excitement. And I know it was good TV as well, but on the ground excitement was through the roof. It was one of the only free events at the Olympics, and so I think that there was a fair amount of sort of excitement there. But it was awesome. It was really, really, really cool. So just on that fact alone, I think it's worth kind of considering here, right? I do think that there's some major differences between what we're talking about potentially at the end of the Tour de France and what happened at the Olympics. The biggest of which is the Olympic road race is 273 kilometers and raced hard from quite early on, right? And that's not going to be the case here. So the 3-minute climb up to Montmartre is not going to have the same impact at the end of this stage as it had at the
everyone
end of
will
the
have
Olympics.
Complete teams as well. Well, complete-ish.
Yeah, everyone will have complete. Now, granted, there'll be 3 weeks of racing in the legs, and so there is. I think there's an opportunity for something wild to happen, but it all depends on the specifics. So it depends how many times they go up, depends how exactly they get from Montmartre to the Champs, because they'll still finish on the Champs. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
They sell like a kilometer's worth of VIP tickets along the Champs-Élysées. Like, there's no way they're giving up on that as the actual finale. And the run from Montmartre to like the Place de la Concorde, sort of the bottom of the Champs, is all downhill, right? So how exactly they get there, how quickly they get there, how big the roads are to get from one place to another, because there's big road options and small road options. That all determines whether there's really any chance of, and how many laps that they do after, right? So if they do a couple Montmartre laps, if they do 3 or 4 Champs laps, it's going to come back together, right? And all these little details will have a huge impact on whether this change is just a bit of sort of window dressing, or whether it fundamentally changes the way that it's raced.
We should also wins. While on that note of sort of down, after hyping everything up, now that we're starting to downplay the impact, we should also point out that there's a decent chance it doesn't happen at all. At the moment, this plan is still very much a nascent one. They are
good word.
Thank you. They're talking with the Paris police, trying to make this happen, and the Paris police have essentially said, "You're going to force us to close Montmartre for like up to 3 days. We need substantial investment to put up barriers." I think a big concern is how big the peloton is. So at the Tour, it's like double the size of the Olympic peloton. Yeah. So there's a lot of factors that could go into making this not happen that we should at least point out before we go back to having fun talking about why
I remember
this is cool.
seeing a number of op-eds around, or just news pieces or analysis pieces after the Olympics saying that was great, but it's never happening at the Tour. Because ... everything you've just said, Dane, and I mean, I think one of the factors is what we said about actually wanting to race it. But yeah, obviously they have to ride into Paris every year anyway. But then it's just a fairly simple closure of Champs-Élysées, and it would be quite a significant additional closure to incorporate that extra climb. I don't know. I mean, It'd be cool to see them do it once. Probably won't happen this year. Well, obviously it won't happen this year, but it's.
I think it could. I think it could happen this year.
Is that what they're saying for this year?
Really?
Yeah. So we should mention that the original reporting on this is from Le Parisien, the sort of the online newspaper magazine. So we're snagging it from there. This is not originally.
They're well sourced though within ASO and stuff. So
I don't know. I think I have better sources with the Paris Police Department. So yeah, which that's how they got this, I think, which is kind of impressive.
They take one look at that mustache and like he's a man of the law.
So I think honestly, let's ignore the logistics of it.
Yep.
Because
what are logistics anyway? Yeah.
Not our concern.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, given the reception at the Olympics last year, and given the fact that, for example, ASO could build a couple little stands at the top and potentially make a bunch of money, and given the sort of all those things, I think it is logistically feasible. It's happened once already for the Olympics, and the Paris during the Olympics was sort of already very strange and shut down, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff happening in Paris anyway, and the city sort of acquiesced to that. There's also a fair amount of political will to just sort of highlight cycling in Paris at the moment. I mean, the city has undergone an extraordinary transformation in the last decade, from one of a sort of a car city to a cycling and pedestrian city. It feels nothing like it did 10 years ago. So there's political will. I think it could happen. So let's leave that to the side. Do we want it to? That's the question.
I don't think it'll live up to expectations. Yeah. But it'll be pretty. But yeah, and actually on that last stage of the tour, maybe we don't need a big story where somebody steals the yellow jersey. We just want more pretty pictures. And fewer laps of the Champs-Élysées, maybe.
I would love someone to steal the yellow jersey on the final stage.
That would be great.
Think about that. So the last time that happened was 89 time trial, Le Mans-Fignon, right? We still talk about it.
Yeah, 35 years later.
It's the same age as me, so yeah.
That's an easy way to remember it.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer.
I'm all for tour gimmicks, even if it ends up being like the grid start. Don't care. Still remember the grid start. Love that. That was a great day.
I also
more gimmicks.
Personally, I mean, I would think it would be great whether or not the yellow jersey was in play. Just again because we get those big names.
Yeah.
Who, with respect to Jasper Philipsen, who Kaylee just loves to disrespect, and also Biniam Girmay and the riders who are going to be pretty bummed about this. It would be cool to see Vanderpool.
Girmay will get over that.
The punchier riders are the new sprinters. Like they're the ones with the panache, with the Lamborghinis, with the endorsement deals.
Van Aert would love it.
With respect to Olav Koy, who's a perfectly nice man, he doesn't get me out of bed in the morning. You feel me, Dane?
I feel you. Yeah, I mean it's true that there was a time when the sprinters were that. They're like in football, they're or American football, it's the wide receiver, and then like in baseball,
well, now the tight ends have come in and taken all the shine. Is that what you're saying?
Johnny, gee, how do you... I'm so impressed with your American football knowledge. Wide receivers they still have that. But,
But not to the same,
Can I paint a picture for us that is an argument for this?
Is it of us all being in a upstairs cafe that's blocked off to everyone else but us, and us watching all the riders go past, and that's the reason why it should happen?
That sounds quite expensive.
Yeah, no, we did it at the Olympics.
Got it at the Olympics. You just have to have a French person with you. Yeah,
we just had to talk to a guy. No, I'm gonna from a racing perspective. Let me just let me paint a picture for you. Okay, so the yellow jersey is sewn up. Okay, so we'll leave that to the side. Leave the sort of the
Pogacar is 8 minutes ahead of Vingegaard.
Pogacar is 8 minutes ahead. It's over, right? So normally the Paris stage would be a complete procession, just a bit of champagne rolling around, and then we get about 45 minutes of kind of it's quite hard racing, to be clear, around the Champs-Élysées, because the Champs it's like these sort of weird they're not really cobblestones, they're kind of anyway, it's hard racing. Instead we get, let's call it 3 laps up Montmartre, and they do decide to race it. The big names, Wout van Aert, Van der Poel, Remco, they want the stage win because it's 3 laps of Montmartre and then a quick dive down to the Champs, where they do 1 lap and then finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Milan-San Remo.
Yeah, it might actually get Mathieu Van der Poel to turn up.
So you get like, they're not going to have more than 12 seconds over the top on a relatively large group, right? And then they've got a mostly downhill run through the city and then 1 lap of the Champs to hang on. I think in all likelihood, it comes back together. But it might
But you get
not.
the chase, yeah.
But you get the chase. You get drama all the way to the very last second of the Tour de France. Most likely, Jasper Philipsen still catches back on, wins the sprint, reminds us of how exciting he is, and then. But there is that chance.
Yeah,
that
that's all you
Remco
need.
does something, or Wout van Aert does something, or Van der Poel does something, and we don't know until the end. So that's my vision for this. And I think, again, if it all comes down to sort of the specifics of like how they get from the Montmartre laps to the Champs laps, how many Champs laps there are. But I think it could be cool.
Or maybe former Milan-San Remo winner Arnaud Démare will win.
Yes.
Could be. I also think they should only do it like once every 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the Arnaud Démare, that's a big joke. I'm not sure
Just in case
that.
anyone's
I like that
wondering.
you're taking good time out to say like, no, actually, sorry, French people, don't get your hopes up.
I mean, Julian Alaphilippe is invited. That would be fun to see him give it a go.
Unless Arnaud Démare can hold on to a car.
Yes, exactly. I was hoping somebody would get there a little bit quicker.
How much do we think this is a ploy by ASO to bat back the encroaching one cycling movement by trying to make things slightly more exciting?
Well, so this is also proof that they've already got the product, and if they wanted to take some of the things that one cycling is trying to do, they could do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. If they want to do this lap and they could convince the politicians and the police to let them do it, they could build a big stadium next to Sacré-Cœur at the top of this hill and put and sell €2,000 tickets to sit there because it's the most beautiful spot in all of Paris, looking out over the entire city and the Eiffel Tower and all the rest. Like, no question, they could benefit financially from this move.
I think so. That it really is absolutely beautiful. That spot sitting there and looking out over Paris. Even then, it's not quite as beautiful as what really underrated there went kind of unnoticed. Johnny's segue from the discussion of Montmartre into one cycling, and I want to take a moment to appreciate that, Johnny.
Thanks,
that was
Dane,
really,
because not
really
everyone at home
impressive.
has access to our run sheet.
Run sheet, yeah.
And I didn't even pick up on it, so I just brought it right back.
The final thing on the Montmartre.
I unsegued us.
Yeah, you took us back, but that's okay.
Seeing as you did, the final thing is, if they do the Montmartre thing and the Sacré-Cœur and whatever, they need to have the dudes who sell you the beers for €1 just who come up to you. Have you been there in the evening when you're hanging out?
And some cheap sunglasses.
You can't get rid of them and replace them with like, the Tortel Twist merchants. Like, I want to drink like a respectfully ice cold like small Kronenberg.
Yeah. My favorite part of those street vendors at Montmartre though is when you see them spot security and they just scoop up everything they have and run.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's like something out of, I don't know, it's a silly movie.
And when you buy one beer, it's almost as if they don't understand the idea of consuming a beer, because they're like, well, you buy why don't you just buy 4 now? Which is, as a younger man, maybe, but in this day and age, it's like, no, this will be my one beer and then I'm going to go to bed by 9 p.m.
Should we head over to one cycling after your beautiful segue, Johnny?
Johnny tried.
Let's go.
Well,
You tried.
I tried.
I
was caught before the Champs-Élysées.
All right. So this week, our good friend Chris Marshall-Bell, who we had on the pod was it on Monday? Last week. When was Chris on?
Last week.
So he went to the Visma media day, the team presentation day, and he and a couple other reporters kind of cornered Richard Plugge and asked him to comment on one cycling and some of the reaction to Chris's story and the story on Escape that sort of broke the fact that this was imminent, right? Plugge responded with, "I will not talk about this," and then proceeded to talk about this for a while, for like minutes.
Good.
We could actually hear from Plugge himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you can't say a lot about it because it's NDAs and stuff, but when there was a report about last weekend, there was a lot of negative reaction from fans. Main 2 points was the Saudis, and the second point was fans are fearful that their traditional races are going to be changed into these criteriums. So what do you say to fans who are fearful that, one cycling it's going to change their sport?
I cannot say anything about what you're talking about. What I would be afraid of as a fan is that in 10 years' time, a lot of races do not exist anymore. And a lot of races are not able to be organized anymore because of the traffic, et cetera, all the municipality rules and regulations and difficult to get into city centers with finishes because of safety and things like that. So if I was a fan of cycling, which I am, I would be worried because it will stop at a certain point in time. The race environment is already really difficult to make safe for the riders, and we can go 3K slower or 5K slower, but it's still not safe to finish in front of a city hall with all the poles and all the cobbles where you normally can only ride 20K an hour, and we come in with 50 or maybe 55, depends. And that's the big problem for cycling. I would, again, as a fan, be worried, how can we maintain the fun of cycling in that sense? And I would be happy if there's people who are changing that for the better. And again, then maybe you think up front that it is a change like the Tour of Flanders, which is not a good change, but then 10 years after you think, it was a good change.
So you'd think that, if we did have ATB races or 3 laps like Flanders, and people had to pay €5 for entrance, you think over time people will accept that, to have to pay for it, exactly?
I don't know if you have to pay for it, but at least it is more fun to see them 3 times passing by than see them 1 time passing by. And it's and for the organizer, it's more easy to organize it, which is very important, because we need the organizers really big time, and all the organizers are doing a great job so far, but they are getting it a bit more difficult and more difficult every day. I speak to all of them, of course, and Paris-Nice, it's almost impossible to have a lap around Nice nowadays with all the traffic islands, what have you. So it's getting more and more difficult.
The Saudis as well, but obviously, what do you say to people who do it? Because people are concerned that, they don't want money from Saudi Arabia coming into the sport. I know it's already in a lot of sport.
Yeah, well, there was. I cannot, there's a lot of money coming into all sports, wherever it comes from. I don't know if there will be money out of Saudi, but we are in business, and we go forward. There's so many. I also hear sometimes criticism on other sponsors, big sponsors of teams. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but what do you want? And some other people have, so this country have criticism on that country, but this country have criticism on that country, or people from that country. So for me, it's I'm always happy with every support we can get for the sport, because ultimately it puts people on the bike. It shows that we can go from A to B with human power. Ultimately, if we can have more people moving and using their muscles instead of their car, that's for me what I'd like to see.
Real much dialogue with ASO about some of these ideas. I mean, Eduard talked about changing everything in sport since I've been around cycling. Nothing's really changed. Yeah. Is there some interest in hearing ideas, or is it just was the way the sport's been done? Is the way we're trying?
I think that many people have the same idea, and I think David Lapertien wants to leave the sport in a better place, especially business-wise. He is a business guy originally, and he sees that we can have a better sport if we do it better from the business, from a business perspective. And there's many people in the family, as he always calls it, or there's many families who are really happy to join that idea. And I think everybody sees, and everybody has the same problem in cycling, and that's where are we in 10 years time? And we have now a chicken with the golden eggs, and how long can we have that? And we should not slaughter that. That's especially Lapertien is really seeing that. So if he sees that we need to move the needle quickly, so that's good news.
Is there still cycling in 2050?
2050?
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, 100 years ago, you could, in Holland, you could only races on a track, on a velodrome. Yeah. And there was because then you could not race in the open roads, and then everybody thought it's track racing will never die, but cycling is still there, but we don't do it on the track anymore, but on the road. So there will always be competition on the bike and on the road. I'm sure about that, because it's such a big business for so many people that and so many companies that will not go away that easy. Not in your time.
So does he make the case for you? Does he make a decent case? I like the line that basically is sort of the dictionary definition of sports washing, which is like, the money must come from somewhere, and as long as cycling grows, and as long as people keep riding bikes, then I don't care where the money comes from. I like that one.
They also the idea that it's all like, oh, one country criticizes another country, and that country criticizes, like the idea of complete subjectivism. There's no point of trying.
Whataboutism.
Yeah.
What about?
It's exactly
what about all the horrible things?
Which also doesn't actually go down that well in either the Netherlands or Scandinavian countries, where they are like really hot on this issue. Like, we've had Uno X riders before saying they would never go and ride for Bahrain Victorious and stuff like that. So it's interesting he's going so, what's the word? Unapologetically to being like, nope, never heard of sports washing. This money's as good as any other money to me.
Yeah.
It's all green.
It's all green. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's probably so far down his own plug hole now that he's got to grin and bear it and see it through to the bitter end. And he's also going to get some help from David Lepartian, the outgoing UCI president.
Yep. Well, that was an interesting piece of Chris's story, which I hadn't actually put together yet, which is Lepartian is up for an IOC position. I think the election for that is in March. So Lepartian is potentially not the UCI president as of this spring if he gets that IOC slot. And so he is on a bit of a glad-handing attempt at victory tour in these potentially last couple months of his time as UCI president. And Plugge actually said that he wants to end this with all these parties being happy with him, and that support is relevant, right? Like the fact that Lepartian is very much behind this and wants to push it forward before the end of his tenure, I think is relevant to the potential success of it.
The more and more I hear, not necessarily about it, but just like even this interview from Plugge makes me feel less and less confident that it's going to be a success, which is a shame because I kind of, despite everything, I do wish this whole project the best. I think in an idealized way, it could be really good for the sport, but I just think it's going to be, it's giving more Hammer Series than Sport Revolution.
Yeah, I can't help but think it's going to affect the short term more than the long term, and it could actually be damaging for the long term.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the other things that Plugge said in that grab there was that if we don't do anything, a lot of races might be dead in 10 years.
I mean, that is also probably true, but then it's aim for that then, not aim for this weird other thing you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, already today, that, like, for example, ASO owns all sorts of races, right? They own Paris-Nice, they own the Dauphiné, et cetera, et cetera. Those races aren't profitable. They are propped up by the Tour de France. And so that is already sort of true. And he's not wrong about the fact that like some of these smaller races might start to disappear. I mean, we've talked about the sort of calendar stuff before. I don't necessarily think that would be the worst thing in the world. If there's not enough interest in the race to have it exist and to have TV make any money.
Yeah. It's a spicy take, but I agree. It's a spicy take, but I agree.
It's a market. There needs to be an audience. It's not, if the audience does not care, then there's something wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's impossible for the audience to care in the future. I'm saying that at the moment, the way that it's run, the way that it operates, the way that the calendar sits, the way that riders spread their time at various races, if the race cannot survive, that's telling us something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that Plugge is correct in that. And he's again, it's an accurate representation of the way that the sport already works, which is that the whole thing is propped up by a couple major events. I'm not convinced that anything that we've seen so far from One Cycling is actually a solution to that.
Agreed. There's a couple of other bits down the plug hole if we want to get into them.
Yeah, let's get to it.
So Visma Lease Bike did their big sort of media day this week, like that Chris was at, and they announced which riders will be going for various things of the season. They announced their Tour de France squad, which for the first time ever in Visma history, or whatever it used to be called, loads of things, Belkin,
Jumbo,
whatever.
Blanco.
Blanco's
the best.
Rabobank.
Well, actually, no. Since I don't think it counts that. I think it counts since the Blanco years. There will not be a Dutch rider.
This is Rabobank.
Okay, but I don't know. I'm saying for the stat that I'm about to give you.
Okay.
There will not be a Dutch rider in their Tour de France squad.
Interesting.
Wheeler Flits were hot on it.
Of course they was.
Sure.
Marched straight up to Richard Plugge and asked him, what's going on there. And Plugge said, "It doesn't matter to me. I want to win the Tour." He said that maybe the Dutch rider's not good enough at the minute. We have to take our best chance of the riders at the minute. So he's he's really trying to not make any friends this year, which I kind of respect. Also, something that will be interesting to Dane and Kaylee, Sepkus not included in any of sort of the promotional material despite being a Grand Tour winner, and firmly back into the role of, super domestique, in his quote saying, oh, maybe I'll get my chance, but I'm a servant now again.
He was mentioned as being part of the tour squad. I think that's the only time I actually did Apple F looked for his name in some of their materials. I'm like,
of course you did.
Where the hell is, because Matteo Jorgensen got plenty of airtime.
I know.
Yeah.
So, he won Paris-Nice, but he didn't win the Vuelta, Dane.
Maybe Sepkus wanted the focus to be dialed back a bit, because that is
what he made it seem like in the interviews that he gave, is that he's happy to be a domestique, is the way that he made it seem.
Well, I meant that, because from there he can do big things.
He can sneak back onto the top of a Grand Tour podium, you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Jorgensen, shadow leader for the Tour. What does that actually mean?
Well, did Visma say that, or I saw that on Wheeler Flitz?
I think that is the case.
I think the idea, though, is that, hey, it's good to have a second option, and that's true. And if the second option is
option for what? Just
for the Tour de France,
not the overall, though.
Hell yeah!
Are we being for realsies now?
First of all, how dare you denigrate our country by not thinking that Matteo Jorgensen can win the Tour de France? But second of all, he's already a top 10 at a Grand Tour, and he's like, he's like 18. Here's a
hypothetical. Who would be more likely to win the Tour de France? Even if it was just a two-man race, Tom Pidcock or Matteo Jorgensen?
Matteo Jorgensen.
Ooh, right now, I would say Jorgensen. Yeah.
Jorgensen for sure.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean,
get back to me in 5 years when Pidcock decides he wants to, be a road racer again.
He's a research scientist now. He knows no bounds. That was all I had. Those are the two little bits before we climb out of the plug hole.
All right, let's climb out of the plug hole. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, Rigoberto Uran.
He's doing. Yeah.
So that's
no
it.
verb, no verb, no noun, no end of that sentence. Just
fair enough.
Great. Cool.
Just do a run. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Johnny, Rigoberto Uran.
Yes, well, Rigoberto Uran. Why did I just do a Sean Kelly there? That's weird. Just getting sort of Sean Kelly. What's the word? Anyway, Rigoberto Uran. He is retired from professional cycling. You might remember that he did that big ride out with 100,000 people in Colombia. Mm-hmm. He's done some acting. Dane wrote about that. That was fun. Hosted a festival. He's found his next sort of thing he wants to try out. He is trying and kind of succeeding at being a professional footballer.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast at the end of last year, I think, didn't we?
Yeah,
that
we didn't know.
He could have come up with this idea that he wanted to be a professional footballer, and we all laughed.
But he's currently training with a Colombian first division team called Fortaleza. They're mid-table. People assumed he was just going to be working for them as, sort of rep or influencer or whatever. But he's actually training with them. Their season is about to start in Colombia, and no one's sure whether he's going to actually be offered a contract or whatever. But the president of the club has said Rigoberto will have a trial period with us. He wants to play as a creative midfielder, which is one of the harder positions to probably play if you are not a footballer. And you would have presumed he would play as a wing back or something, where his sort of engine would. He could just run all day. Fine, perfect. But he wants to play as a creative midfielder, which is wild. And I don't know how to read into this. Maybe Rigoberto Uran is multi-talented, or maybe the Colombian First Division is not as good as we would have assumed. I would have thought it'd be a pretty good standard.
It's probably quite good.
But if as soon as we catch, when I wake up in the morning and I just see videos on Twitter of Rigoberto Uran just sort of controlling the tempo around the middle, what's the bloke, Andrea Pirlo or something like that, it's going to be I'm not sure what's going to happen. We might have to do a whole podcast special breaking down his play.
Do we have any photos of him training or anything yet?
No, that's what adds to the mystique, is that there's all we have is this quote from the president of the club. So unless he's trying to fill their 10,000 capacity stadium, which I imagine is probably pretty full anyway, in Bogota, it's mad.
I want to throw a wrench into this conversation, because this is something that I'm just seeing this now.
Okay.
Apparently, Rigoberto Uran and Carlos Vives, who is a Colombian pop star. He's like the biggest musician in Colombia.
Okay.
He's huge. Not just Colombia, all of the Spanish speaking world.
Yeah.
And they're buds, Uran and Vives.
Best buds.
And apparently, they are trying to, or already have, buy the team, which may
okay.
That makes a lot.
may
of
have
That
a
kind of makes it even funnier.
yeah. So there's that. That's just a note, which could
good way to get
be
into some training sessions.
part of why. Yeah, I don't know how far along that is. I'm just seeing this. I'm reading it now. That's a
That
thing.
is funny.
Yeah.
That is very funny.
We need an extensive breakdown of Uran's business dealings
Yeah.
He has a pretty
do we?
massive empire.
because they are extensive and impressive. Like he has done a lot. He's done
Yeah.
a lot of things.
He took Wout
And
van Aert along for the ride last year to like get
Oh,
his
that was
face
one of my
waxed
favourite
and
off-season
dance with his
moments.
grannies.
So good.
It was great.
I love
dad
it. All right,
dancing.
well, we'll keep an eye on this. Obviously, we will, we
Obviously.
will be waiting with bated breath for additional updates on this story. But let's move on to RCS. So this is just a quick news hit here. So RCS, Giro d'Italia organizer, they're weighing up their wildcard options at this point in time, and there's definitely a bit of dealing that happens in these wildcard negotiations, right? Because it's one of the last places the UCI has taken a fair amount of the sort of team selection power away from the organizers in the last 15 years or so. It's one of the few places where ASO and RCS have lost power, right? I would say within the sport in the last 10 or 15 years. And it's a big one. So all they have left really is a couple wildcard slots to fill, and they can demand certain things for those wildcard slots. So right now, what they're demanding that Tudor bring one of its stars, right? If they want an invite.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Hershey
Do you
or
know-
Alaphilippe, one of their new stars that they've just signed.
Which Mark Hershey has a man who's sort of won and featured so little in big bike races ever had such weight attached to his name.
Wow. Shots
For
fired.
for a
Johnny.
Giro wildcard to hinge on the name of Mark Hershey, is that not quite
Yeah.
wild? And to be mentioned in the same breath as Julian Alaphilippe.
In contrast to Julian Alaphilippe, however, he has been good lately. I mean, Alaphilippe was
Yeah.
fine
Yeah.
last year, but like Hershey was
He
actually
did
really
pick
good.
it up. You're right.
What if
And
Tudor,
so
do you think
there's that.
Tudor cares? Do you think they'd rather go to the tour if they to turn down? I mean, I know that there's a very little chance of them going to the tour.
And
as well,
I think
but
that's
they
the
are-
problem, is that that's not going to happen, right?
Well, I think that's what they're waiting for, isn't it? To see if they can sneak in with Julian Alaphilippe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And Hershey's won a couple of stages at the tour before, so
Yeah.
if you're Mauro Ravenia, I can understand this. I mean, if you're going to hand out wild cards to teams, you better expect them to send a good team. And so I kind of get where they're coming from here.
well, they'd want to surely. If they're only going to one Grand Tour, they would.
If they
say,
only go to one Grand Tour, right.
well,
right.
they're not going to go to more than one, are they?
They must
Surely.
They must be waiting
Yeah.
for the tour.
Yeah,
They're hoping
yeah.
for the tour.
They're still hoping that Alaphilippe gets them across.
You've
the line.
got to have Alaphilippe in the tour. I'm sorry, you've
I
got to
know,
have him
yeah.
in there.
But you could send Hershey to the Giro, so I don't see why there's an issue here. Just send Hershey to the Giro. Like it seems.
Yeah, it's weird. I think potentially RCS are just in a complete sort of tailspin because I wasn't watching the Giro route presentation, which finally happened.
It was incredible.
When was that? Earlier this week on Monday? Yeah.
Monday, or Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay, you give me like a brief overview of what happened, Katie. Then I've got two very choice quotes that I would like to share with you.
So I turned it on the Giro website,
Mhm.
and every 2 minutes or so, the Giro website auto reloads, so it would stop, and then I'd have to go find, because I was just listening. I was mostly listening to it, not watching it, so I had to go find the tab, and hit play, and so that was a good start technically.
I admire your persistence, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, I
would've
gave up.
quit.
I gave up after not too long because it took 57 minutes to get to. This is the Giro d'Italia route announcement. We started late, Italian. We started late, so we get to 57 minutes after we are supposed to have started, and we finally get the first inkling of
The route.
what a route
Sorry.
is actually is actually going to be. The technical side was somewhat questionable. Joe Lindsay was watching on YouTube, where it also was, and they kept chucking these videos up, like very well produced videos. They clearly spent most of their time producing videos, but they didn't have any of the audio on YouTube for the videos. the version I was watching had audio, which is great, but it was stopping every 90 seconds, and so I had to go back in. Anyway, it was a very, for anybody who's been to an RCS event or sort of dealt with like big Italian hullabaloo stuff. It was very Italian. It was very like, a couple people up on stage, kind of cracking jokes, talking about all sorts of stuff. Lots of things that just really didn't matter to the reason why everyone was there. And then finally, eventually, we get to the route announcement. The Giro d'Italia women looks really cool this year. It's got 3 uphill finishes. That's great news. The men's Giro looks like a men's Giro. Not a whole lot to report there, honestly. We'll talk a lot more about that when we get closer to the Giro. But the whole thing was just very odd. Like simultaneously really slick in places, and then like someone who had never done a presentation before was putting the rest of it together.
These
very
are
strange.
like RCS and ASO and like their own personal quirks. This is what we are kind of at risk of losing if the one cycling stuff gets through and flourishes, which will be a shame, but is probably for the best. It's like it's like drinking or smoking or whatever. Like you enjoy it at the time, but in the long run, it will probably kill you.
So there's a traditional style of putting together a narrative. Right. And a team or a route presentation is effectively a narrative. You're trying to tell a story to people so they're excited about your race. The traditional style of that is to put something in the beginning that gives you a reason to continue to watch.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that fundamentally what was wrong with this presentation is there was about 57 minutes of the exact opposite of just 57 minutes of absolutely nothing before we finally got to what was actually going to be in the bicycle races.
The 57 minutes of nothing might have felt like that maybe because none of us speak Italian, because the quotes emerged afterwards of the on-screen conversations between the RCS owner Urbano Cairo and the Albanian president Edi Rama.
Good stuff. Yep.
Who is hosting, or Albania is hosting the Grande Partenza. One quote from RCS owner Urbano Cairo reads, "We've had 15 starts abroad. Guess who paid the least?" And then looks round and sort of points at the Albanian president, which is a wild move. Not to be outdone, Albanian President Edi Rama then says, "It was really difficult to strike a deal with RCS President Cairo. If Greenland ever needs to negotiate with Trump, they should call Cairo." So these two guys are just absolutely going at it, hammer and tongs, in front of like YouTube and I don't know, kind of the world, and seemingly not caring, like clearly like despise each other's guts, and yet are about to put on a massive event together. And I just think it's beautiful.
So good. Good
stuff.
All right, well, the Giro looks good. The presentation is ridiculous. They always are. They're just they're ridiculous. Well, I don't think that these two things are directly related, but there are teams that are skipping the Giro.
Yes, both. No, just Lotto.
Just one, I think.
Israel, Premier Tech are not. But what ties those two teams together are they are skipping Paris-Nice, which I wrote about this week.
Why?
Lotto say it's because they're trying to chase the most possible points for promotion to the World Tour, even though they've mathematically kind of already done it, because they would have to score 0 points and like Arkea B&B would have to score over 10,000, which they have not managed to do for the past 2 seasons or got anywhere close. So I kind of get the feeling that Lotto kind of just can't be bothered, or it doesn't fit their program, and they're already kind of up shit's creek with having lost Destiny as a sponsor, which is the worst name of a sponsor you could possibly lose. So they're already up against it a bit. Israel, on the other hand, are looking toward a very Derek G focused Giro and really want to like optimize and focus fully on the Italian program to lead into the Giro. And the sense that you get from, you know, what they told me was that it's all about sort of optimizing your calendar now as well. Like we've gone past optimizing like the bike and off bike stuff. It's like optimizing your calendar. At some point, we're going to run out of things to optimize. But the idea is that, you know, you're stretched at the start of the season, especially it's a long season. Do you want to be so stretched at 2 big bike races? Paris-Nice is one that is quite attritional. Like you're not going to come out of that being like, oh, that was a lovely week of bike racing. I feel super good for, you know, the next couple of months. But
there's always a lot of weather at Paris-Nice.
Lots of weather. It's a real shame for Paris-Nice, which is a great and big bike race. Kind of speaks to what we've been talking about in previous weeks of calendar overlap with Tirreno, and that we need to have the biggest races ridden properly by the biggest teams.
Yeah.
But I looked back and Lotto, especially since Israel became World Tour team, and Lotto, I don't think forever have ever skipped Paris-Nice. So it's like a micro trend that
They weren't
a trend
allowed
that's
to for a long
emerged.
time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, because they're a pro team.
Yeah.
But like they've even when they were pro team for the past couple of years, they've raced it. So it's just an odd peculiarity, and I was questioning what we think it speaks to in terms of pro cycling in 2025. Nothing good, I would think.
It speaks to, I mean, granted the somewhat unique circumstances here, but it speaks to a calendar that doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. That was much more concise than my rambling.
I mean, really, it does. Like, if teams are making a decision that a quote unquote major race is just irrelevant to them, then there's something broken. There's something wrong.
Could also be an element of we have no chance of doing something there. When the way that the sport is currently oriented, there's just this like dominance of 6 riders ish, give or take, and that means that if you look at a calendar and you say, oh well, a bunch of them are going to this race, what's the point of even sending riders and spending money on logistics? Which is a really sad way of like viewing things, but I think that's a real possibility, especially for a team like Lotto that has that many options to win races. They've got a few. But Arnaud Delis can only go to so many races, right? So
true, so true.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Like whatever the sort of underlying factors are, I don't think it's a good sign.
Okay,
that's basically the long and short of it.
Well, that's a fun story we left for toward the end of the podcast.
What if we briefly return to Montmartre?
Yeah.
So
what are we doing there?
We're going to church, Sacré-Cœur.
I put a poll up on Threads and Twitter this morning that said the Tour de France is considering adding Montmartre laps like the Olympics ahead of its traditional Champs finish in Paris. What do we think? And the options were yes, do it, or no, keep it a sprint. Slightly different responses from
it sounds like a good sociological study on the demographics of shitter.
Let us guess.
Threads.
Okay, they're not super different. They're just a little tiny bit different.
I reckon
on Twitter
Threads?
we've got 159 votes on Twitter, and how many votes on Threads? Probably not as many.
10.
I reckon Threads will
58.
All right, Threads.
I only put this up like right before the
Threads will be going for the keeping it the same as a sprint, and X, the everything app, it's all happening on X. They will be going for the Montmartre finish.
Nope.
Do they both agree?
Other way around.
They both agree?
No, they both agree.
Yeah.
They both agree.
They're very similar. So the gist of this is that the people, or at least around 250 of them,
that's enough,
fully believe that they should add these Montmartre laps.
Wow.
So on X, we've got 79.9%.
That's quite significant.
Are saying yes, do it. And on Threads, 91% are saying yes.
Wow.
Do it. Yep.
It's very rare that the cycling world and fandom all agrees for change.
Well, I wonder. I mean, so what are the age ranges on these? Because I wonder if the old Belgian men would agree, who aren't on either social media app.
The old Belgian men are still convinced that the Tour of Flanders is better than the Tour de France.
It is. So get out of here with that bad take.
Well, but okay, somewhat semi-formed thought here. Yeah. This is kind of indicative. You just mentioned that it's unusual for cycling fans to want change, right? Now, what I think this is proof of is that if you present change with like an actual interesting change that feels like it will be fun and feels like it would make the sport better, then we actually do want it, right? And this is maybe a lesson for Richard Plugge and the rest of the One Cycling folks, that if you put things down, you put proposals together that are actually good for the sport and obviously good for the fans who underpin everything. Because this would be good for the fans. It would make that final stage much, much better viewing. There is no question on that.
Yes.
Then people like it, right? A vast majority of people are saying do this.
And even in
And
a very traditionalist sport too. I mean, I feel like this is a sport that really likes its traditions, and the fact that many of you, well, first of all, you said, what do you say, 250? I do think there's a chance that it's all the overlap, that they're, both groups are actually just the same people, right?
Oh,
like
the double dipping.
How many of them are actually like, they love Kaylee Fretz, so they're like, I follow this guy on Twitter.
no, I did it from the Escape. I did it from the Escape account. I should have done it from my own.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because I have more followers on Twitter than I think the Escape
If only
account
we
does.
had, if only we had the time and resource to create our onion version of Escape, the onion version of Escape, because then I think that would attract a different crowd entirely.
Probably.
Scope.
Probably.
Escape. Look, change is good. Like as a podcast, we're changing things quite significantly.
Yep.
We're all fine. We're making things make more sense, and it's probably going to be for the best.
Hopefully.
Change is good.
Yeah.
Maybe. There was one person who said that it's now ruined, or it's thrown off their week because they knew that they would get up on a Wednesday and they'd have this podcast, and now they have to change things around, which I feel deeply because I'm the same way with the podcast I listen to.
Yeah.
It's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I know what I'm doing between 10 and 11:30.
I feel like it's kind of an honor that this change has thrown off
true
someone's
too.
week. That makes me feel like
one person. For one person.
Well, thanks to that one person.
Well, so I don't want to disparage this person because clearly they like the pod, and we.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying it's dedication that we don't.
What
deserve.
I'm about to say may sound somewhat disparaging.
Oh, good. Well, carry on then. Yeah.
Which is that podcasts don't go away, and you could still listen to it on Wednesday. If you wanted to. Yeah.
True.
Well, that's a reasonable point.
If the timing of it in your week matters that much, you listen whenever you want. You can listen a week later. I'm always shocked, actually. I watch the stats relatively closely, right? And 85-90% of people listen to the pod sort of within a couple days of it going out. But there are people that listen to podcasts that are 2 months old.
Really?
Sometimes. Yeah. I have no idea why.
They're like, oh, I wonder if Tom Pidcock is going to make the move or not.
Well, it is most podcasts, or many podcasts, that's normal. Like the Hardcore History podcast, which I love and listen to. Alexander the Great isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, but this is a news podcast.
Yeah.
That's what makes it different for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, what we're talking about is, if not irrelevant, then at least the question has been answered within about a week of us talking about it, right?
Yeah,
or sometimes, I mean, I noticed on Tuesday that Vingegaard has actually got the World Championships on his program, and I said on Monday that he is absolutely not going, but he might get the vaccines anyway. So we can be wrong very quickly.
Oh well.
I still think he won't go, but anyway.
My favorite podcasts are the ones where we're wrong actually before we even get it up.
Oh yes.
Something happens in between recording and publishing that makes us wrong.
Which is another good thing about this change is that we're getting them up quicker.
We are. Thank you to Will.
Yes, thank you
to Will. The most egregious mistake of this week, none of you will beat me on this, is that in the Lotto Israel skipping Paris piece, I said that another year has passed and the Earth has rotated on its axis, which in fact happens once every day, not every 365 days.
Yeah, we've been around the sun in a year.
That was dead embarrassing.
Oh well.
My mother, the 6th grade math and science teacher,
she'd be fuming.
She's probably shocked and appalled.
Should have just doubled down on it, Johnny.
Probably was already. We've kind of drifted into After Dark here without actually going in.
We have.
That's fine.
I don't think we're going to do After Dark on Fridays.
No, it's just Friday. We just slowly descend into Friday vibes.
Yeah. So
that's fine.
Johnny, you and I listen to a podcast called The Football Ramble.
Oh yeah, they always
talk about the keys to the weekend. So we need a
keys
similar...
to the weekend. What's that mean?
Well, one of them holds the keys to the weekend, and as long as you've got the keys to the weekend, you can open up the weekend.
Ah, okay.
This is a Friday episode.
I see.
So what's our equivalent?
I definitely don't have the keys to the weekend. Here's a personal anecdote. I have embarked upon some sort of dental reconstruction. I'm currently in the phase 1, which is getting my teeth whitened. Turned out it's the worst thing you can ever do because you can't eat or drink anything, and it lasts for 3 weeks. I'm doing a grand tour of only eating and drinking white foods. They did not tell me that before they charged me a high amount of Great British pounds. So I'm currently, the keys to the weekend are buried in a drawer that I don't remember.
Who has done that to themselves?
Question, Johnny, does breading count? Like, I am okay with eating chicken the whole time if I can eat chicken nuggets, but they have golden brown.
Yeah, you can have that.
around.
Basically, the rule is that you can't eat anything or drink anything that could stain a white t-shirt. The reason I'm doing the teeth whitening is only a small amount because of like having pride in my appearance. It's because I want to get I've got a chip in my front tooth fixed, and they managed to sell me on the fact that I need to if I get it whitened, it'll be easier to color match. Dentists are actually genius salesmen because you can't really argue with them because they've been to like university for many years to do what they do. You can't tell them they're wrong.
Half of this front tooth is actually fake.
Yeah,
and they've tried this on me numerous times.
They tried to get you.
Yeah, but I don't care enough, so I just tell them to fix it.
My dentist just spoke with such authority that I felt in the moment stupid to contradict them, which I don't know. So yeah, I do not have the keys to the weekend. I have a sneaky. I think because it was Kit's birthday on Wednesday, have birthday Kit. I think Kit had the keys to the weekend too early, so this might be a recovery weekend. So maybe Dane's got a little smirk. I think Dane might have the keys to the weekend.
I definitely do. I'm smirking because I happy birthday Kit. That's all.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
happy birthday.
You do have the keys to the weekend, though, Dane. I know you do.
I got the keys. Let's go.
Dane, it's Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens this Sunday.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't really care about that.
It's a huge weekend,
but
you don't care about that.
It's fine. Like, it's cool. I like it. But do the listeners care about American football? I hope so, because this is the second time we've brought it up. But yeah, it's fine. I care about the Eagles, Johnny, and you know that. That's what I care about.
Oh yeah,
go Birds.
They're in the hot seat though because of how they treated that Green Bay Packers fan. But we are a cycling podcast, so let's get back to it. Well, we'll have to figure out some better Friday vibes than this.
We're gonna come up with our own version of Keys to the Weekend. If you have an idea, maybe just drop it into Discord or tweet it at us or something like that, and let us know what you think we should, how we should enter the weekend. It's gonna be something cycling related, right? So like we're gonna go for a bike ride this weekend. What are we doing on Friday to prepare for the weekend and bike riding, etc. All right, let's call it there. Thank you everybody for joining us today on this first Friday spin cycle. We'll be back on Monday.
That is crazy. Let's hope something happens this weekend.
Hopefully we'll be back on Monday. Wow, we got women's Tour Down Under starting like right now. Again, go check out this week's Wheel Talk. You got a preview over there, and Matt Deneef and Dave Romer on the ground in Adelaide providing updates on both the men's and women's races. So keep an eye and an ear out. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Oh, hi. Dave Rome here. If you're hearing this, then you're on the free feed of the Escape Collective podcast network. We're happy you're here, and we'll continue to give plenty of expert opinion and analysis away for free. But really, our best stuff is saved for members of Escape Collective. After all, with no advertising or affiliate links, it's our members who make this all possible. From in-depth interviews with leading experts to class-leading reviews, through to unique things like my threaded series for anyone spinning spanners of any level. That's the sort of content you'll get by becoming a member. And as an added bonus, you won't have to listen to ads like this again. Head to escapecollective.com/join to sign up.